So, Jamila, thank you so much for being on our show. Extremely privileged to have you. I know you're a very, very accomplished legal, and the topic of our show, as you know, is legal. So, thank you for being on our show. And I'm quite sure that in the next 45 minutes, you'll share some amazing, words of wisdom, some great facts that we can speak about that will make the common man and woman far more aware of the whole concept around family law. So let's start first of all with your journey. We'd love to know because you and I have known each other for 36, 37 years, but I know you finished one career and then you went into you wanted to be a lawyer much later in life than you normally would. So tell us about your journey. It'd be lovely to hear that.
First of all, Talat, thank you for having me here. I think it's an honor, a singular honor, actually. And let's get to the meat right now. Well, I gave up flying in 86. Then I
Hmm.
went back studying in 92. I had done my graduation already in 72. I went back to studying in 92 and I became a lawyer. And I'm so glad I did that because I think this was my true calling. Although I can't say I didn't enjoyed my years of flying, but this was my calling. And since then, I have worked hard. I must admit, by dint of sheer hard work, because you see what happens in law. You are in a city, and the outlying rural areas. You're from that area, so you get the people from your village coming to you. That
Right.
hasn't happened with me because I'm a totally urban person. I don't belong to any village, so or outlying area. And I'm glad it was a tough ride, but when I look back, I said, was it really that rough? You know,
Hmm.
and having a ride. Then of course, I progressed. The first step was that I became public prosecutor. Then I became a district deputy attorney. Then I was a prosecutor with NAB. And then at the highlight of my career was that I did a field general court martial, which very, very, very few lawyers do, and I won. Then I was summoned by the High Court Toronto as an expert in Muslim family law. That was a singular experience. And of course, then I got elevated. I became a judge of the High Court. After that, I came back to my chamber. I'm right now practicing, I'm a practicing trial lawyer. I do appellate work as well to the level of the Supreme Court. You can't get any other license beyond the Supreme Court. Yeah,
Okay,
nothing
fantastic.
much
And
in a
just before
nutshell.
I move on to our second question, just what was it? Why law? Why did you leave flying and why pick law? You could have gone into any other profession. So what was it about law? Was it just something you always wanted to do? Your family? What was it?
No, my mother used to say that, you should, I used to argue with it, said you should be a lawyer kind of thing. But no, I really wanted to get into the foreign service. But by the time I decided to going back to studying, I was age barred.
Okay.
So the next best choice was doing law. And I always, even as a kid, I used to always watch these law programs. I was sort of, very attracted to them. So I said, why don't I do law? Because there's no age barrier there and all that stuff is a private matter. And also, I had got into a business with a friend of mine, and we got cheated terribly by the third partner.
Okay.
And that said that I did not know my rights. If I had known my rights, I would have not been cheated.
Right.
And made me ponder the lots of women who have been taken for rights. And that's why I sort of said, no, this is what I want to do. And I did it. Alhamdulillah.
And why family law? Why
No, no,
that
I don't.
particular field?
You see, that is, I am called a family lawyer by default. I started my career with civil law.
Okay.
I've done criminal law, but by default, I am better known as the family lawyer. I suppose, sort of, I tend to empathize with people a lot, and they come in there, they're hurting, and I empathize them. They get these little scoldings from me. But I'm a trial lawyer, I'm not sort of limited to family law. But
Got it.
yes, majority of my cases are family cases. I do
Okay.
civil, I do criminal, I do services, labor. We do all these kinds of laws. We do. Trial lawyers do all kinds of cases.
Got it. Okay. Over to you, Fariha.
Thank you, Jamila, and very impressive. Thank you. So the second question is about people who want to pursue a profession, legal profession. We know that critical thinking and analytical skills are two very important skills. But what else? And secondly, we keep hearing that, with the sort of robotics, a lot of sort of 25% of the work that the lawyers do currently will not be, they won't be required to do that. So how do you see this profession transitioning, and what are the skills needed in the future?
I actually didn't get the bit about the lawyers will not be required to do what they're doing. I didn't quite catch on with
So
that.
the robotics, so what we hear that robotics are, there's a report from McKinsey that 25% of the work that lawyers do will be done by the robotics, because I think there'll be machines which will be taking over in terms of the probably the manuals that are there. So I don't know. I'll be curious to know how do you
I,
see the future?
I would be also very curious to know how the robots will go about handling the judge whose English is pathetic, and you're trying to tell us people are not born out of wedlock. These children were born in wedlock, and it doesn't know difference between out of wedlock or in wedlock. So that is the time I probably won't be alive by the time that comes around. Thank God for that. As far as this, if you the other bit would be what profession, how to get into profession. I'm assuming. Um, okay, let me start, give you a little bit of a background. There was a time when women getting into law was frowned upon. It was a man's world. I was the third female lawyer to join the Islamabad district courts. Today, we have a strength of about 8 to 900 female lawyers actually practicing. So that's very heartening. And whoever watches this, I want to tell them, please don't be afraid. The judges respect female lawyers. The litigant, the lawyers, male lawyers are very protective about female lawyers. But one thing I will tell them is please do not bring in your gender bit into here. You are a lawyer, you're not a man or a woman, you're a lawyer. And that is the one bit I resent that women say, Sir, hum to aurat zaat hain, I said, no, please, cut that nonsense. When you put on that black jacket of yours, you are neither a man nor a woman. You're representing a client. You're trying to get a person their rights. And that's the only grouse I have with girls. A, they try to portray themselves, female lawyers, they try and portray themselves as a weak, sort of take advantage of the gentler sex or the frailer sex. Then they try and take advantage of the femme fatale kind of thing, sort of making eyes at the judge, and I resent that tremendously. But having said that, there are girls who have made a lot of names, progress in the street. I mean, Asma Jahangir is a case in point. She really made her name, and nowadays there are lots of girls. At least I know about Islamabad. They're really making strides and getting where they should be.
Hmm.
Um, if that doesn't answer your question, can you ask me more about it?
No,
I
I
think
think that's a
that's what you meant.
So I think a follow-up question is, what are the skills required to be a successful lawyer and to grow in that profession?
You have to have a very, very analytical mind, because it's interpretation of law. You're
Hmm.
interpreting it, and that's why you have to analyze the statute. And it is not necessary because a judge has analyzed in a particular manner, your analysis won't be accepted by the other judge. Like if there's one point, on that point, I can get you rulings of superior judges in favor of that point, and I can get you an even a number of rulings which are against it. So basically, you're dealing with a human being. You have to give your interpretation. A, you have to have analytical mind. B, you have to have the gift of the gab, be glib, especially in criminal law. You have to think on your feet when you do criminal law. With other laws, other matters, you can prepare the brief and all that. But when you're cross-examining in criminal law, you have to think on your feet. Three, I always tell my juniors, dress and address. How you dress up and how you address the court. So you have to have that. Like my seniors will say, I don't know why people bother to do their LLB and then go to London to do their bar or the LLM. They should go and join RADA, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, because we are basically performers. And the most important, I feel, is that you feel their pain. Because if you can't feel their pain, the client's pain, you will never be able to emote in court. Because we speak in the first person singular. So, you have to have that feeling that, these people are hurting. And if you're detached, you cannot, like, I think it's everything, any profession where it's interaction of people is there, then you have to understand where they're coming from.